It's time to present Scott to Pot to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
Okay, I am back for another episode. We are thrilled to have Lee Chambers today. Lee is a writer, producer, and director. Welcome, Lee.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, I don't know a little bit about your early background, but you moved to Canada and then you studied in the UK.
Well, yeah, I was born and raised in Canada, in Ontario, but I found out that I could get a British passport, which I thought was cool because my parents immigrated in the 60s. And I got my passport. I went over to England for, I think I was planning 6 months, and I stayed there for about 8 years. Did film school at Leeds Metropolitan University, which is now Leeds Beckett University. So I did that and made a lot of good stuff, made a lot of good contacts, and sort of honed my craft there. And then I was in LA for 2 years doing some stuff, and I'm back in Canada now and made lots of short films and feature films and yeah, I'm a product of the world, meaning I think I'm a nomad. So I travel all over the place.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, wherever I can make a movie, I'll make it.
That's so awesome. So, I want to drill down in a few minutes about your short films because you've made so many of them, and we'll talk a little bit about the your short film project. But so you started making all these shorts, and I really want to kind of drill down just for a few brief moments about two films, the manuscript, a feature that I guess you executive produced, and then later the Pineville Heist that you produced. That was also a feature, correct?
Yeah.
So how did those two films come about?
About 10 years ago, I was in Australia. I did some workshops, film workshops in Australia. Yeah, I met some producers, ended up coming back again, and I was an associate producer on like a I think it was about a $2 or $3 million feature film. And somebody I met there had made a film called The Manuscript. Now, they had already made the manuscript, they'd already shot it. And I came on board kind of when they were kind of trying to figure out what to do with it. And the problem with the manuscript was it was like 50 minutes. It's too long for a short and too short for a feature. And I was trying to help them with some kind of distribution plan for how they can get it out. My first thing was, well, you either find a way to expand the story and get it up a little bit higher so that it actually has some value in the market as a feature, but the fact that they didn't have any movie stars in it wouldn't have allowed them to actually generate revenue because there's nothing driving it. So my suggestion was, and I saw lots of opportunity where they could actually trim it down. Let's get it down to 30 minutes, and at least then it's a 30-minute short and it's easy. So it was very difficult sell on the festival circuit because it just fit in an odd time frame. And it's something that I told a lot of, like, as a film professor, is short films should be short. I mean, as soon as you get too long, it's harder to really do a lot with them because they're in the
Yeah,
kind of
50 is no man's
weird.
land.
It's a weird zone. I took the experience from doing some of that stuff in Australia, and I had plans to make the Pineville Heist, and I was chasing after traditional funding here in Canada and was coming up with nothing. A lot of it was, we don't know you, and it's like the chicken and the egg. What comes first? You haven't proved yourself as a feature film producer director, so until you do, then you can have the money. I'm like, well, how do you ever get an opportunity to make your first feature? So I was struggling with trying to find financing and didn't come up with anything. And then after working on these couple projects in Australia, I made the decision that I was going to make it no matter what. So
And
whether I
what was the budget range of the Pineville Heist?
well, it went from, a good healthy Canadian film, has maybe, $1 to $2 million. That's what you're going to get when you're trying to package a film in Canada. Obviously, I was going after that, but my budget kept coming down. It's like, well, I can do it for a million. I can do it for 500,000. Oh, I can do it for less. Ended up doing it was probably about a million, not a million, $100,000 in cash. And then we
But
had a lot of,
just to clarify, so 100,000 cash, but
yeah,
all the other pieces and Canadian incentive stuff might have been like 3 or 400,000.
it could have been, yeah. But no, but we didn't get any of that. So I got nothing. So
Oh, okay.
so a lot of good favors. Like I had, I had access to an Alexa, so that didn't cost me anything. I had access to a lot of folks that wanted to work on it, so the cost of crew and stuff came down. It was a contained film about a high school kid who gets locked in his high school after taking the money from the bad guys. So it's contained within a school, and I managed to get this old high school that for $500, all flat, no other costs, which was my set. I had a 4-story building that was free for me to do whatever I wanted. And because they
Awesome.
were going to renovate it and turn it into condos, they didn't even care if I put holes in the wall or wrecked the
Oh,
ceiling.
perfect.
So $500. I mean, it was like, it's crazy. So you think of the value, you say, okay, well, I had 100,000, but when you add up all of the things that you would have spent a lot of money on, it probably would have been in the 350 to 400 range. I'm guessing.
Especially with that location with multiple things inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Wow. So you got that finished. You raised the money yourself. Now, was that excuse me, multiple investors, or do you get like one big fish?
I would like to find a big fish. Who wouldn't like to have a big fish who has the vision and whatever? Now, what happened with Pineville Heist, which was unique, when I was chasing after the money and wasn't getting anywhere. One of the unique things that I did was I novelized the screenplay. So I co-wrote it with a friend of mine, Todd Gordon, and I originally had the idea. We then worked together, made the screenplay, and then I novelized it and I sold it. I managed to get an actor named Boo Boo Stewart, who was in Twilight and eventually in the X-Men movie, one of the X-Men movies, to sign on a letter of intent to star in it. And then because he was in Twilight, he had this rabid group of Twilight girls and who were crazy about the Twilight series, that he helped pushed it and it's like, hey, I'm going to be in the Pineville Heist. Ended up selling 42,000 copies of the book.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. So
so
that helped
that helped, that
big
generated
time.
a lot of support. And then what happened was a lot of the investors, so you go back to your original question, it was multiple investors putting in bits of money, but all of the investors who came on board because of the book primarily. So they weren't reading the screenplay and going, because a lot of people I think don't understand how to read a screenplay. Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
a different
They just
kind
want
of
to
movie.
connect the dots, how they can monetize it, how they can
Right.
get ROI.
Right. And so the people just like, I love the book. So yeah, yeah, go make this into a movie. And so it helps. So I ended up novelizing another one that I'm trying to make as well. So and that sold about 10, 15,000 copies as well.
Now, is that the sum of random chance?
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk about that in just a minute, but I want to go back. You mentioned something about how you became an associate producer on a $2 or $3 million film. How does one become an associate producer on a what I would call a pretty healthy independent budget?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, when I was in Australia and I met a producer, director, and writer team. It was a husband and wife, and they had a film in Australia that called Needle, which was doing really well. It was kind of a horror movie, and met them, and I was there doing a workshop, and so we talked about different projects. But they had a movie called The Reckoning with Jonathan LaPaglia and Luke Hemsworth they were planning on making, and I still hadn't made Pineville Heist yet, and literally they were like, "Well, you should come to us." I was back in Canada, and they said you should come back and work on the movie. So what we did was I went there, and I was there for about 5 months. I worked on the movie as an associate producer. So I was basically, what I did is I donated my time to help work on the project in lieu of actually providing financing. So some of the other associate producers actually put money into to the project. I gave my time. So what was great for me, it was like I was one of the first ones who was part of the project. So I was doing breakdowns on VFX for the breakdowns for locations, and then they were trying to hire a location person, but he wasn't available. So I started doing some original scouting, and then I trained a PA to become the location manager, and then on set some days I was helping record sound, and then I was doing this wide range of different things all day long for the, it's like 25-day shoot or something. And so I got this really good all-in experience where I didn't get paid, but I donated my time, so I got an opening title credit on the movie.
Yeah, a huge credit and an amazing experience.
And yeah, the experience was like, to me, it was like, even though I'd made lots of shorts, it was like I needed to go through the process of not just a 3 or 5 day shoot, but like a, longer shoot where I'm seeing every element of it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
the best film school in the world.
right. I'm doing, getting insurance quotes. I'm holding a boom pole sometimes. I'm doing a little bit of everything, and I had the great thing is I had the flexibility too. So and even at the end of the shoot, the director of it said it's weird because everybody normally on a film set has a title and a specific job, and he says you didn't, but managed to find a way to make yourself indispensable all the time.
That's
So
the
that was
key. I want you to repeat that one more time.
yeah, it was just he's basically because you have, if you have 20 people or 100 people on a set, every job is important, right? And so if one person doesn't do their job, then things could fall apart, and the schedule can go out of whack really fast. And I was always there to pick up the ball when something happened. So one real fun one was one day they were shooting by the beach with a little bit of near the forest and the beach, windy night, all night shoot. A runner didn't show up, and they were like, "Shit, we need somebody to hold a light so it shines onto the set far away." And I'm like, "I'll do it." And I'm thinking, I'm an associate producer, but I'll hold this light for an hour. And
Yeah.
started raining. It was horrible. Anyway, the light burst and the light pop burst into flames. And then I like, oh my God. So I lowered the light a little bit and then carried the light out to the parking lot and laid it down. It's in flames. And they're like, well, if you weren't there, if it fell over, it could have lit the trees on fire. And I'm like, and they're like, thanks for doing that. And I'm like, because there's no job in the film industry or on a film set particularly that is unimportant. Like a runner
Correct.
could be the most important person on a set at any given point in time.
And
Because
you
they're
made yourself indispensable.
right, made myself
Yeah.
indispensable, and was willing to do anything. Because I think sometimes people aren't, right? Some people think, oh, I want to be the director. And it's like, well, sometimes you have to understand that
Yeah.
everybody on set needs to do a job in
Yeah.
order for it to be successful.
And those are the type of people I hire again and again.
Right.
Like I've got my A list of like 5 people. I want them on my productions no matter what.
Oh yeah,
Just
once you develop that trust,
yeah.
right? That's it. Every single time, every single time. Yeah.
So in case any of our Millionaire Flicks audience is listening, you're novelizing a new screenplay, The Sum of Random Chance. You put it in a book and you're now raising money or developing it
Yeah,
into a film?
it was under option here in Canada, and then the option has come back to me. So I'm looking at different ways of what I do it. We actually the script actually was written a while ago, and then I developed it with Tom Craig, who was a former VP of production at Universal Pictures, who's a great resource because he doesn't get into the weeds of little things. He's like the big picture of how can you make this profitable? How could you make this attractive to an audience? And we looked at the script recently, and it's like, was it? There's a character, he's looking for a payphone. He goes, unless you're setting this in the 90s,
Yeah.
nobody's looking for a payphone. So we went through a process just recently where we totally revamped the screenplay and updated it and modernized it. It's a real good feel good kind of story, and it has an element, what's interesting now, of how people's trust of the media. It has an element of that in there, which wasn't really a big issue, like 10 years ago, but now it is. So I think it has some relevance to what's going on in the world right now. But yeah, it's there's that, plus there's a,
What's the budget range? Or what do you envision it as?
That one could easily be done for, under $2 million. It could easily be done for under $2 million. It's funny, when I was doing Pineville Heist, I met a financier who looked at the Pineville Heist, and he said, "What's your range?" And I said, "Well, under 2 million." He said, "Well, I only deal in $8 to $10 million." And I said, "Look, we'll throw in an $8 million movie star, and then we'll make it for 2 million." And there,
Yeah.
because the movie star drives it. I always find that interesting with the question of budget, because what can you make it for? And rather than dumbing it down and saying how little can I make it for, it's how much really should it be? Where is the range of where the project
Yeah.
be? Because one of the things with Pineville is it's sold to 35 countries around the world, but it's never really going to make me any money. I mean, to me, it's a great piece that shows people that what I can do. But what I realize is you need bankable movie stars in it. You need
Some names really, really
some
help.
names that is going to help push it, and for the poster, that people recognize, and that you can sell. And if you don't have those names, then it's very, 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 very difficult. So to me, it's the next step. It's like, $100,000 movie, great, but okay, now we need to go up into the million to 2 million market, where you add in some names or whatever, and then you're in a position where you can actually generate profit.
Yeah, and personally, my opinion, anything over 2 million post-pandemic, unless you're going way up to 15 million, is very dangerous, because in my opinion, I don't really see a theatrical for independence anymore. I don't know about in
No,
Canada, but
no, exactly. Yeah, and I always thought that was the range. There's this dead zone where it doesn't work unless you have the
yeah,
money.
the 3, the 5, the 7, the $9 million indies,
Yeah.
unless you got everything buttoned up, I think that's danger zone.
Well, there's the same thing with theatrical here in Canada. When I did Pineville Heist, one of the things that I did, and it came from doing short films, where I used with Cineplex. I managed to do a lot of things with Cineplex with my short films, where I'd have a night where we would show short films and we'd generate money for charity. So when my feature was done, I said, "Hey, Cineplex, let's show my movie." We sold out 5 screens this on the opening night, and then I said to everybody in the audience, "Tell Cineplex you want to see this, right?" And 2 days later, I was in the airport. I was flying to LA for a screening in LA, and I'm getting a call from Cineplex going, "We're getting inundated with people wanting to see your movie. How can we schedule it in?" And they said, "Who's your distributor?" And I had a distributor, but what I did with my distributor was I retained theatrical, because they're not really valuable for an independent film anyway, but I wanted to control it. I set up a deal independent of my film company to make myself a distributor with Cineplex. And then we went and put it in a half dozen cinemas in Canada and sold out cinemas in
So
Canada.
you're four-walling it yourself and
Right.
keeping that money, whatever the split is.
Right. And so, yeah, so it toured around a bunch of cinemas, did great, and actually, you get this check back for people going to see your movie. And a lot of people I know who are making films are like, "How did you do that?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I just asked." I mean, it goes back to my first film that I made in England, a short film. I reached out to the cinema and said, "Hey, can you show my short film before this movie, before Full Monty or whatever?" And it's like, "Okay." And then before you know, it's playing for 6 weeks, and everyone's going, "How did
Wow.
you do that?" And I'm like, "You know what? You just got to,
And you actually made a little bit of money.
yeah." And it's like,
Wow.
say, "Well, how did you do something?" I'm like, "Well, you just ask." I mean, people can say no, and
Yeah.
that's fine. But if you ask enough people, somebody might go, "Hey, you know what? I'll take a chance. I'll go for it." And you never know. So you gotta buy that lottery ticket in order to win it. But if you're sitting around all day long going, "Oh, woe is me, nobody's watching my movie," you got to get out there and push it, right?
Wow. So that's why. So let's talk about your shorts a little bit and your short film project. So I'm guessing, and I'd love to hear it from your own words, because I was kind of intrigued. You keep doing shorts, and you're still doing shorts. Is that because you just love making short films, or you're doing them on the side, or you can make a little bit of money back on them? Because a lot of
Not
people,
now.
when
You
they
don't
do
make money on
shorts,
shorts.
but you were four-walling them sometimes.
Yeah, it wasn't about making money. I mean, the great thing with shorts is it keeps me fresh as a writer and a director and a producer, right? And with each short that I do, I find a way to challenge myself. So one I did a couple years ago called the Devil Knows You're Dead. I like Ocean's 11. I like these shots of going through casinos and how these big kind of set. But that's really off the table for a lot of independent filmmakers because it's expensive. Anyway, in my home town here in Canada, I met this guy who was he was the manager of the cinema, and then he moved and he became the manager of a casino. And I said to him, I go, I've always wanted to shoot in a casino. And he said, I can probably make that happen. And he goes, casino changed their hours where they were closed at 4 in the morning until 8 in the morning. And he goes, if you can shoot between 4 and 8 in the morning, I'll let you come in. I'm like,
Perfect.
beautiful. So literally, I wrote a short, like 8-page script that fit around a guy who goes to a casino and then the crazy things happen. I brought in, we shot, I brought in 70 extras, Steadicam plus 2 Alexas, did this whole scene. I created the branding, the people's name tags, the chips I had designed, all the posters in there. We changed the posters so it was my casino. And then I've got Steadicams like Scorsese doing Casino, going through the casino. I'm thinking beautiful. Like it looks very rich because and it was just like, to me, just wanting to practice and I just want to show that I can pull off this kind of stuff. Lots of fun. It was a lot of fun, but they don't generate revenue, right? To me, I can shoot in a day
They're
or
building
two.
your skills. They're building your
Yeah, yeah.
experience.
Here's my show reel.
Yeah.
Some stuff looks really rich on there. It looks like it's $1 million, but it might have been done for way less. So it's trying to prove to a producer or financier that, hey, and somebody said that to me when they watched Pineville. They went, if he can do that for 100 grand, imagine if we gave him a budget, right? I mean, imagine if we give him a budget,
Exactly.
right?
So what would you say to someone listening or watching this show right now? They've done some short films. What are the advantage to having a few short films under your belt to get to that 100 or 300K first feature?
Well, I think it's good to do short films because, again, if you're shooting over a day or two, whatever, you're getting you get the feeling of what your day is like in terms of, the pressure, shooting all day long, just what's going on. But there's a big jump. It's not just a matter of, people sometimes think, well, I'll make a short film this weekend. If I do 6 of them over a short film every weekend, I'll put it together, it'll be a feature. And it always sounds like that should be the logic. I mean, mathematically, but it is not at all the logic. It's like, as soon as you go from a short into a feature, it is exponentially completely a different game, trying to get up to, say, 90-minute feature. I remember after shooting Pineville, if I got 2 hours of sleep a night, I was lucky. But every day I woke up with pure energy and enthusiasm and excitement to get through my day. And then at the end of the day, you'd fall asleep and I'm back awake again. I'm back at it again. And one of the things I used to tell, it was funny when I was a teacher, they would shoot 3-day shoots, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And on a Monday morning, I'd teach a film business class. And I'd look around the room and I go, hey, there's a couple of people missing. And it would be people who are shooting on the weekend. And I'm like, where are they? Well, they're tired. And I'm thinking, but what if this was day 4? They only shot for 3 days.
Yeah, day 4 out of day 20.
Right.
4 out of 20.
Right. And so they're tired on day 4 and they can't come to my class where I'm going to teach them about the film industry. And I was like, well, there you go. You can't handle a feature film if you can't show up on day 4.
Yeah. Now, when you were raising money, obviously the novelization, the book, clearly helped because you had an audience.
Oh, yeah.
Did you show your potential investors the shorts, or how else did you leverage all that experience with all your shorts to get the money?
I've done lots of shorts. And then as a teacher, I probably advise on about 3,000 of them, right? So some good, a lot bad, but each one a learning experience or a stepping stone for the person involved. For myself, I show a lot of diversity in my reel and my ability to deliver, my ability to make it engaging and interesting and entertaining. And when I counted up all the awards and nominations over the years, and it's hundreds, right? It's I've been to lots of festivals, and I've my stuff has been awarded all over the place, which is great. I mean, it's
It
that
helps. It definitely helps. I
it
mean,
helps.
all those little things probably help sway a potential investor, right?
For
Your
sure.
reel,
Yeah,
some
yeah, he can pull it
awards.
off, right? He could, if we give him the
Yeah.
money, he delivers. He actually gets it done and actually will deliver a product. Yeah, and then your show reel of materials, like I've shown my show reel to people, and it's like, in 2 minutes, it's like, here's highlights of my thing, and people always say, that one with the guy with the thing, how can I see that one? Like, I want to actually watch the whole thing. So
That's pretty cool.
right. So then people start wanting, instead of watching a 10-second clip, want to say, I want to see the entire 5-minute or 10-minute short film. And once I think people sit down and look at my stuff, and I kind of give them a scope of what I'm doing, it usually, if it fits into what they're looking to try to finance or whatever, I always think that I'm a pretty good bet for
Well, it
someone who,
shows yourself you're a professional. You know
for
what you're
sure.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could literally talk to you for another half hour. We went a little bit over, but thank you first of all for being on the show. I know you got a super busy schedule, but what's the best way that people can follow you or contact you?
Mine's pretty easy because I made myself a .com years ago. So if you go to leechambers.com, you just Google my name, leechambers.com, you'll get there. And then on Instagram, I use that one a lot. And it's leechambers.com, leechambers.com. Follow me on Instagram, whatever, lots of good stuff there. And I do sometimes like to support and advise other filmmakers and give advice on things. So by all means, reach out.
That's very generous of you. Before we go, the final parting words of advice you would give to filmmakers who want to do their first or their second narrative feature or their feature-length documentary, and they're looking for the money.
Invest time in your screenplay. And never, like I just went through a screenplay, another one that I've been working on. It's been working on for a couple years. I had somebody just go through and help me with the proofreading. Just found tons of little mistakes in it. Things that I've been looking at for years, but my brain glosses over them. I don't see them anymore. And just fix this, just basically because I think sometimes a producer will look at a screenplay, and if they start seeing little mistakes all over the place, they think, why bother continuing? If they haven't taken the care to make sure this is a good, solid document, then do I really want to continue? And you might have a great idea and a great screenplay and really great characters, but if after 10 pages they feel like I'm not, if the formatting's off, they think, well, do they really know they're not a professional, they don't know what they're doing, did they even bother to spell check this thing? I'm not going to continue. So you could blow what could be a really good idea because you haven't done due diligence to make sure your screenplay is in the best possible shape, right? And that is also being open to criticism. And I hate the word criticism, but when someone gives you advice and guidance and suggest something, it's you say, well, where are they coming from? Like, I listen to Tom Craig regularly because he was like, he greenlit big movies for Universal, so he obviously has a pulse on what works for the market. And so, okay, let's make some changes, let's move. So be open to that. Yeah.
Awesome. Great advice. And every great movie starts with a great story, great script.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Lee. Really, really appreciate your time. Wish you all the best on all your future projects.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. And remember, it's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own indie film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com and click on the green telephone button. You'll see our calendar, and if you find an open spot, grab it. You'll get a one-on-one call with me or one of my partners. It will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.